Hey, we don't know how to start this. I think it might be the third weekend here. We've got our buddy Jackson, who's a client as well. He's a producer out of LA. Willie does his best to just bring anybody. He's, hey, come travel with me. Some people are full of shit, and they're like, yeah, totally, and they never show up. But Jackson's not one of those people.
It definitely is not.
He's traveled a couple other times.
Mexico City.
He's maybe going to come back to Mexico with us. But yeah, he is a full-blown artistpreneur as well. He's here with us in the other room cooking up some beats. But he showed up, and we decided to do some more exploring this weekend we want to talk about.
Yeah, every weekend is an adventure when you're traveling, but this weekend was equally as crazy as last weekend, maybe even arguably full of more adventure. Unintended adventure, I think, is a good way to foreshadow what happened here. But yeah, just as a little outline to get us started. This weekend, what we did was we rented motorbikes again because we're biker bros. We now have decided that. If you remember from last episode, we had a great time. Evan's perspective changed after he rode a motorbike for the first time. And so we decided to do it again. I love getting out in Colombia and riding these bikes because they're so much fun. It's a great way to see the country. Jackson was just like Evan last week. Never had been on a bike before. We took the lead here. We didn't have Jose this weekend to show us around, so I was the navigator. But we rented motorbikes, all three of us, and we went to a place called El Pinole, which we'll talk about in just a second. It's a big rock that's like a standalone rock that just comes out of the middle of nowhere, and it's in this valley in this really interesting spot. And then there's this small, I don't know if it's patrimonial, but it is an older town that's really popular with tourists called Guatapé. And so we did that, and then the next day we ended up going to the Comuna 13, and Comunas are something we'll dig into in just a second too, but we did that. And then we also went to this really local spot that Jose had told me about and brought me to last time I was here to get panchocha, which we'll talk about again too. But a super adventurous weekend. Lots of really cool stuff, lots of local things. I would like to start this off by you telling about your battle scars.
Oh, yeah. I think the first weekend I was just like being real careful. We had a local guiding us, so I think the confidence was just extra strong. And I think this time I got a little too cocky. And apart from some other bike stuff that Jackson went through that wasn't his fault, I got clipped by a truck. Yeah, I got a whole bruises here. I got clipped. They love their roundabouts here. It's probably a pretty efficient way. I'm not a transportation expert, but it's probably a really efficient way to navigate stuff, but damn do they suck, especially when you're on a bike in a country you never really go to. And yeah, this truck came out of nowhere in my blind spot and clipped me, and I fell over, and I was like, oh no, I'm fine. And 3 days later, it's just like, bruise. So
not looking so good.
I survived, but I think I just got a little too cocky.
I think we were going around the roundabout, and the car was trying to exit, and it snagged him. And I was up ahead. I didn't even know it happened, and Evan toppled over apparently, and he's fine. Like roughed up around the edges a little bit. I'm sure you can see it in his attitude a tad bit. Like getting knocked down on a bike, that is no fun, especially after the start we had, which maybe we should rewind to talk about everything that led up to that. And so we go rent the bikes. I rent from one spot here, which I won't name drop because it's a pain in the ass. But we rent from that place, and we get the bikes, and I've confirmed this 3 or 4 times, including the night before, that, hey, you have 3 automatic motos. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I wrecked a manual bike that I was forced to drive in Sao Paulo when I was in Brazil. And I am just a little intimidated by manual motos now. Like,
for sure.
It's not for me, especially because I have somebody visiting me, and she was riding on the back, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Also, we're on mountains, like every road. No, thank you. I need an automatic. We get there. Check-in here always takes at least an hour for some reason. You got to give you, like, your firstborn child, like, your thumbprints, like, all these other things. And
the fingerprint, I still don't understand. Like,
no idea.
Who's checking that? Like,
what do you need a fingerprint for?
What are you doing? We're renting a car. We're not renting a kidney.
Yeah, I have no idea why they need that. No judge is going to be like, all right, that's your fingerprint. That's it. Like,
we sent this to forensics, and this is for sure your fingerprint.
Like, makes zero sense. Anyway. But they have 2 bikes. They only have 2 motos. They have a manual, and then they have 2 automatics. And apparently their WhatsApp communication goes for all of the other cities that they operate in inside of Colombia, and they got all mixed up, blah, blah, blah. They said, okay, we're going to have a moto be here at 11. After some digging, we uncovered that's probably not entirely true. They're just making that up. And so, luckily, I know another place right around the corner that rents motos. I've never done it before there, but I send Jackson and my friend over, and they go and they get a moto. They get like an automatic moto that feels like a grown-up's Hot Wheel car. And I swear, this thing it's so small, it looks like it could easily been a rebuilt moped. And again, Colombia is full of mountains, right? Like, it's impossible to escape them. You have to go up the mountain and you have to go down the mountain, period. Everywhere. And Jackson's bike can't keep up. Like, first off, they gave it to him with no gas. Like,
zero gas.
Zero gas. And I thought, okay, there must be a little gas in there, but apparently not. So we're going up the mountain. I'm like 8 minutes away from the gas station because we're traveling around. We get stopped on the way over to this happening. Like, before we start going up the mountains, I'm trying to go through a tunnel. We get stopped by police because apparently I was using my maps and it was for cars, not for motos. My maps, my Google Maps didn't show a moto option. We're trying to go through this tunnel. Cars are honking at us, and I just think we're just driving really bad.
Me too, yeah. Everybody was like pulling over and like yelling in Spanish, and I'm like, hi! They were probably like, you can't take this road, you idiot.
Motos are not allowed to go through this tunnel, and I didn't know that. And we're going through there, and there's a couple of police officers with AKs across their chest, stopped and just pulling people over, and they flag us down, and they ask us for our passports, all these things. Luckily, the girl I'm with, she speaks Spanish, she's from Mexico, and she's able to help us through all of this. And they tell us, like, no, we're not allowed to go through this with our motos, and they help us get out. They forgive us trying to go through there. Embarrassing, but easy.
Could have gone a lot worse. They sent us with a fond farewell. I didn't know what was about to happen.
And so by not going through that tunnel, it literally adds 35-40 minutes to our travel. Because now we have to, instead of going through the mountain, you now have to go up the mountain and back down the mountain. It was warm at the bottom when we were going through the tunnel. It is freezing jacket weather at the top. And again, it adds so much time. We get down to the bottom of it, and we're literally on the other side of the tunnel after 40 minutes. So annoying.
Yeah.
But as we're going up the mountain, around the tunnel, essentially, Jackson's bike is pitter-pattering up. He's having a very hard time. Can't go over 40 kilometers, which is not very fast at all. And I'm trying to slow down for him, and then Evan's behind him and sees him in the other lane. Just stop.
He just basically stops. And I see him kind of panic, and he goes over to the side. I'm like, oh, shit, what's about to happen? And he just ran out of gas. I think there was enough gas in there, but remember, a mountain.
Steep mountains.
I'm not a scientist, but it'll go backward. The fuel will go into the back, and it can't get it. I think there was an okay amount, but because of the steep mountain, and we're Midwestern boys used to flat-ass land, we didn't think about it.
Yep.
Yeah, he just completely stops. Has to push the thing the rest of the way. Luckily, we're almost to the top. We find a cool little...
like a Vista that they can like park at. It's right there pretty much where he stalled out.
Yeah. We just kind of kick it for Willie to go grab some gas. And we thought we had to fill up a bunch of vitamin water bottles.
We're like pulling out bottles out of the garbage cans at this Mirador, and I'm like putting them under my seat, emptying out the seat so I can put everything in there. I'm thinking I'm going to get a couple of Cokes and just drink them really fast and just fill gas with that. I've got to drive another 8 miles. Jackson would have never made it. It was literally almost straight up. And I go as fast as I can up the mountain, go to the gas station. They've got bags that they give you that they just fill with gas, apparently, because that must happen all the time. And so I fill up half a bag for Jackson, bring it back down. I'm gone for 15, 20 minutes max, I bet. And we fill up his bike, and then we're on our way. Mm-hmm. And he's got such a small tank, so we just pack away a little gas in his little compartment, and we're set. And then we're riding, we're going, and then we get close to El Pinole. Again, is this mountain. It's not really a mountain. It's just
it's literally a giant rock.
It's a rock that is not surrounded by anything, really. It's just a rock that just skirted straight on up out of nowhere. The locals used to worship that rock, actually. That's what brought in the original communities, is they used to see it as, like, magical because of its uniqueness. And then it became owned privately. And if you see El Pinole, if you do some research, you look at pictures of it, El Pinole, 2 words, is got these like GI letters painted on the side. The owner at one point was going to paint the words Guatapé, which is the nearby city, on the side of the mountain in paint, gigantic letters taking up the side of this mountain. And then he got the G and the first line of the U done, and then the city was like, wait a second, bro, what are you doing? And so he couldn't erase it because it's paint on the side of a mountain, and he couldn't finish it because they didn't let him. So it now just says GI.
They can't just paint over it with a color that kind of looks like the rock? I don't understand.
Apparently not. They can't paint anything now. El Peñol is really interesting, though. So the guy that owns it, he is noted for scaling it for the first time, and then he built like wooden stairs, and then eventually he built concrete stairs and turned it into this big tourist attraction where now you can climb to the top. And this was one of Jackson's must-do things was El Peñol and Guatapé. It's like a big, huge tourist thing here to do. It's about 2 hours away. And so we go to Guatapé, and everything's great. We climb the mountain. We have started so late because of the issues with the bikes. We get there, it's probably 3:30, 4 o'clock already before we even get to Guatapé. Here, the sun goes down at the same time every day, right? It's 5:30, 6 o'clock. You should be moving. Like, sun's going down soon. There's 660 steps, something like that.
676 or something.
Not easy, but we do it in about 10 minutes up and about 10 minutes down.
And the steps, just to mention, if you aren't looking at pictures of it right now, it looks like something out of Lemony Snicket's Unfortunate Events or Harry Potter or something. They're like jagged, like cartoonish. You're like, what the hell?
If you're a big person, you're not going to make it through some of these passageways.
Yeah.
Not happening.
Real steep. Every third person is like running out of breath, us included. Don't get me wrong, but very steep stairs, but really beautiful scenery. And from what I remember from our first time going there, it's surrounded by what seems to be a lake, but it's not natural. They put it there, correct? It's a man-made lake. It's like kind of patchy. Like
almost island-like.
Yeah.
Yeah, there used to be farmland out there, and I can't remember who did it, but some developer suggested flooding the farmland in order to start making upscale housing and developments around the tourist industry that was happening out of Guatapé and El Peñol. And so they flooded all this land, and now you have homes that are really luxurious, like hotels, boating, all these outdoor like water activities, helicopter rides that are in this gigantic area. It's a massive space that's all been flooded and is now water and islands, and you can view all of this. It's right around Guatapé, or right around El Peñol, sorry.
There's also something that we really wanted to do this time around, but I'm glad we didn't confirm because time didn't make sense. But Pablo Escobar's home, one of his probably many homes, is out there somewhere, like in an island. And apparently you need like specific contacts to go and look at it. It's abandoned, just looks like a haunted
blown up
area. Yeah, blown up. Wanted to check that out. A little bummed we didn't. Maybe we'll do that eventually, but
I'd like
still
to do the
kind
prison.
of cool. Yeah,
I'd like to do the prison.
Yeah,
because Pablo built a prison for himself, which was really interesting. If you haven't seen all of that, you should watch Narcos. Big thing, I think we've talked about it in one of these podcasts, is that the Colombian people have moved on from what the narco life was like. Like, they don't talking about it very often. It's something that they're trying to sweep under the rug and let go. When in Rome, like, I still think it's really interesting to see what that was like. Narcos, if you watch Narcos, is not a good representation of what Colombia is like, and I do not want that to be portrayed as what it currently is, but it is still very interesting to see those things. But yeah, we didn't get a chance to do that, so we go over to Guatapé, a small town, very colorful town, noted for like their frescoes on the bottom of the buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful
frescoes, that's what they were called.
Yeah. And so there's these beautiful designs on all the houses at the bottom, like half of them. Every house is different, every building is different, every building and house has them. It's really cool. So we go over there, and on our way in, we are stopped by police again. And this time, it's all three of us, and they're searching everybody. And so we're a little worried. We're like, blah, blah, blah. I've got like a blunt on me. Everything's fine, but like, still a little concerning. And they say to my friend Marianne, why are you guys renting a car? There's three of you. And she says, for like more adventure, right? And so we end up getting out of that. No problem. They're just like, these tourists, whatever. Go into Guatapé, have a good time. Walked around, saw the church, like all the colorful things, had some coffee, and it was just a great time over there.
The town is very, how do I put this, Instagram-esque. You probably have seen tons of pictures of the umbrellas that are in that's like, I feel like their most famous area
100%.
when it comes to Instagram stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
Really beautiful. There's other cool things outside of that, but that's like the picture spot.
Mm-hmm.
Umbrellas just seeming like they're floating, but I really like that church. I think that's a really
the
beautiful
wooden church. Like, it's not wooden on the outside, but wooden on the inside. Beautiful, like mahogany wood.
Yeah, and Guatapé is cool, but the first weekend that we did adventuring, the less tourist one still had that charm without hundreds of tourists. It's definitely like a tourist spot.
Yeah.
So just to throw that out there, if you're ever looking to come here, there's plenty of other little towns that will give you more of the like local vibes, because that's kind of what we like to do. Like the tourist ones, yeah, you have to go and see that too, but branching outside of the first thing that comes up on TripAdvisor, I think is what we're about. So I encourage you to look at those too. People might look at you like, hey, how'd you find this place? But they're really friendly.
Super welcoming.
Yeah, tons of little towns. Just wanted to throw that out there too.
And so we have to ride back from Guatapé 2 hours or so in the dark. I don't mind night driving. I think it's fine. You're on mountains, so I think people are a little bit more safe at night with the motos.
Definitely.
There's big semis you got to go around, like big buses and things. It definitely has a little bit of danger to it, but I think we were fine. About halfway through, we get Jackson his first chocolate con queso, which was pretty good, and then some more empanadas, because I can't turn down an empanada. And we come back, and everybody is just beat again. Just a very big, exhausting day. And then we make it, and then the next day, we sleep in a little bit, as per usual, on Sundays, and we go over to the Comuna. And we went over to Comuna 13. Comuna 13 here, if you've done any research at all on Medellin and Colombia, you've probably seen it as one of those top things on TripAdvisor. Another one of Jackson's must-do things. But I think the Comuna has a lot of cultural relevance for Medellin. Most people, I've had more than one person, especially other than Jackson, refer to the Comunas as like a Call of Duty map. In Call of Duty, I don't play, but I know lots of people do, there's a map called Favela. And favelas are in Brazil. I've never seen anything outside of Colombia and the comunas that look like comunas, except for favelas in Brazil. They look identical. They're on the side of mountains. They are essentially like home-built brick homes. Like, you make them yourself. Generations stack on top of each other when they have a new one. And in Colombia, they don't run off of like high class, low class, middle class kind of vibes. It's a numbered system. The higher your number, to my understanding, the lower your class, the lower your income typically is. And so high up in the mountains, you have these really high numbers where you can find rent, if you needed to at this point, for really cheap. I've been told you can find some of these homes at the top of these comunas for $20 a month, which is crazy. And so Comuna 13 used to be notoriously very dangerous. It was the area, if you know anything about favelas in Brazil, are still dangerous. They're drug lord controlled. You're not allowed to go in them. You might die. I have plenty of stories that can prove that. Save that for another time. But you go into the Comuna, and now they're safe. They used to run like drugs through these little corridors, and the paramilitary was essentially like kids armed with AKs and guns that would internally fight inside these comunas. And they were really dangerous back in the day, because the drugs like come from right over on the other side of the mountain, and they come into Medellin, right there, which is essentially the home for drugs. Like, when I talk to Jose will tell you the barrio here is where the drugs start. If you ever buy any drugs in anywhere, you can bet they probably come through the same streets that we were walking in the comunas at one point in time. They definitely come through this city. And so now it's very safe.
That's an understatement. Here, let me paint the picture for you. It's basically the entrance to a Six Flags. There's people dressed up. Carl Fredricksen from Up was dressed up, like having a good time. There's a bunch of people in costumes. There's a bunch of vendors selling cool, fancy hats. Like, very much a theme park. And it's just, to me, it's like that juxtaposition, if that's the right word, is crazy to me, because first time we did a tour, we actually took a tour with a dude that I believe he said that he used to live in there, and said he remembers when the helicopters came in and started shooting at him. He was a kid and he had to like duck,
I remember that.
It wasn't really that long ago.
80s.
There used to be like piles of bodies laid right in front of this basketball court that's right there in the entrance.
Every
and now
day.
It's just like tourist city, so it's just, I don't even have a word for it. Just very interesting how much it's evolved.
In the 80s, and I believe even some of the 90s too, the military and the paramilitary, the Colombian government, stepped in and they brought in helicopters, military helicopters, and they would fly over the comunas and shoot into the comunas, trying to take down the people that were part of the paramilitary, the opposing like groups. And it's crazy because there's photos over there of the military coming in, like trying to clean up the bodies, like doing the things that the gangs were doing and trying to clean it up a little bit. But the military at that time wasn't any better really than the paramilitary. They were still corrupt. They were just doing other things like that. But they were shooting these helicopters into the comunas. Kids died, bullets everywhere. They definitely missed their people sometimes. I can't imagine. Can you imagine like living in a small neighborhood and then you just have helicopters over top of you shooting into your neighborhood? That's wild.
Yeah.
And then now it's, again, as Evan said, it's like totally different. They welcome it because now it's, again, just as we talked about Pablo earlier and how they're trying to push that out of the window and not talk about those things and not look at them anymore. This is the same thing. It's a revitalization. It's a showcase of how much Colombia, especially Medellin, has changed.
Yeah. There's 4 escalators because, of course, big surprise, it's built on a mountain. There's 4 escalators now. That's how trafficked it is.
That was deliberately done to bring more traffic to it.
Makes sense. They should adopt that in El Pinole. Give us an elevator. Let's go.
I don't know why there's no cable car there.
The interesting thing, real quick, about Pablo, because we were looking for just interesting merch to just look at necessarily, not necessarily buy. What we noticed, Jackson and I, was there was only a specific type of depiction of Pablo in all of the merch. If you watch the show, like there's like a picture of him as Jesus. You don't see that. It's all his mugshot.
Yeah.
It's all his mugshot or like his driver's license, which I thought was random. But it's always just, and there's not a lot of it, but when there is, it like always depicts him as, hey, remember he's a criminal. I thought that was interesting. I don't know if that was like intentional, but it's not like just him like hanging out, having a good time. Like when you see his actual face or his portrait, it's usually tied to him, remember being a criminal.
That's a very
It
interesting
kind of
point.
goes back to the fact that they're just like, hey, we want to make money off of this, but
happened.
I also don't want to portray him as like a hero.
Because he was at the time. He
the-
was at the time portrayed as a hero. Like when he was actually thriving.
Robin Hood? High as a Robin Hood?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just interesting. Things shifted, and I think that is also a misconception.
Totally
Like,
true.
Oh, like our parents, like they remember that stuff happening and
Totally.
going across the news, so they're just like, oh, that's still happening. It's like,
Not even close. This is one of the most relatively safe places I've been.
Yeah.
Like it is. It's not Argentina. It's not Europe, but it is definitely safe. I would encourage a lot of people to come here. Cool thing, I bought these though in the Comuna. Jackson wanted to try something that I really like. I'll maybe try to get it up close to the camera here, see if you can see what it is. I just got the butts here. There's no like main one, but let's see if I can get this close to the camera here. That's a butt. They're big ass ants. I just have the big ass here. Is there any actual full ants?
No. Yeah,
So-
maybe.
Oh, you got one? Traditionally, like, you can have these... I like bugs. That's a weird thing to say, but I do eating insects. There we go. You can see the legs on them and everything.
That's an ant.
Yep. Here, let me see that. I'm going to eat that.
Crunchy.
That's good. I'm going to put these rest in the bag. That doesn't mean they're not good. I just don't want them right now. But...
I'm not a huge fan. It's a mental thing for me. I know they're ants, and my brain's like, you don't normally eat that. That's weird. They don't actually taste terrible. It's
Tastes
just,
like
I think,
nuts.
a mental thing for
It
me.
tastes like nuts. It's like when I was in Egypt, I couldn't eat them. Remember
The pigeon was tough, bro. Real tough.
I couldn't do the pigeon.
It did just taste like chicken, but anyway, these ants, yeah, it just taste like salty popcorn. Apparently they say that they're an aphrodisiac.
I don't know. I'm no less or more horny after that.
Yeah.
I'm the same amount.
Indifferent about that. But the final thing that we did, which was arguably my favorite thing, because those other two things, apart from getting hit by a truck, I had done before last time we were here last year. And it was cool, it was touristy, but I like to do the not so touristy things. And Willie was able to take us to basically this bonfire local hangout spot, literally at the top of the mountain. Like, I cannot express how steep these roads were. Me and Jackson were like falling over. His brakes went out. But it was really cool because you could tell all locals. And I love that. I want to go, whether it's a place in the U.S. or whatever, like I like to go where the locals go. Maybe you can relate to. But I thought it was really cool, and Willie can talk more about like the food that we got apart from the chocolate cake. But lots of bread, lots of cheeses, but just the vibes were so cool. It was over the top of the mountain, overlooking the city. There's a little lightning storm happening. There's a little bonfire, people just hanging out. It was just really cool. But yeah, talk about the...
If you lean back, you might be able to... Oh, it's like in the edge here, but it's essentially at the top of the mountain over there. And so I take these guys through a different comuna, driving the motos up. Again, very steep. These are the steepest roads these guys have seen.
Yeah, it's a different comuna that isn't the touristy one. It's like a... I don't want to say a real one, but like it's one that doesn't have escalators and like wacky characters at it. Like, actively living their lives.
People live in Comuna 13, but
course.
This one is not a tourist thing.
Sure.
And so we go through this, we're weaving up and out the roads, like at some points going straight up. As Evan said, on the way down, I had to hit the brakes so much that my brakes ended up failing. At some point I had to stop, we had to chill out for just a moment. When we get to the top, you're overlooking everything. It is so beautiful. The place is called panchocha. Panchocha is like a type of bread that is filled with cheese. It's really big. It's a big piece of bread. Cheese is really good.
There's other stuff in there too. It looked like almost cream cheese on top of the cheese or something.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you exactly what types of cheeses are in them, but they're really good. And then, so we usually, me and Jose go up there. We'll get the panchocha. We'll get some chocolate con queso. I don't really like the queso in this chocolate. It's like a mozzarella, but whatever. And then we got some churrasco and some chorizo. And so we order, we go through this long line to even order, and then you get another longer line to pick up your food, and we do all of that, and then you can go outside or you can sit inside. Outside leads you like essentially 2 stories down. You're walking outside the building, and then you walk into this big open like yard area where there's like wooden, they're not benches, but they're like as tall as like a table, but they're made out of wood, and then some benches underneath that so you can eat, and then there's a campfire out there. There's these areas with like nets that you can relax in.
Yeah, you're like hanging off a mountain in a little play place for adults. So
Yeah.
it's really cool.
It looks like what you'd imagine you'd see at like a summer camp kind of vibe.
Yeah, 100%.
And you just hang out, you enjoy your panchocha, your chocolate, and your food, and you hang out. And I think one of the craziest and cool things that you mentioned to me was that out of the, I would guess, hundreds of people there, you didn't see a cell phone screen in sight. You really didn't. You would see the occasional one pop up where they were doing something together as a group, or maybe they were taking a photo of each other. That was it. Like, people talking to people. It was wonderful. And you're overlooking this beautiful city. You got all the lights on at night. You're higher than the clouds sometimes. Like when we arrived, we were in the clouds.
Couldn't see anything. It
Couldn't
was
see
real
anything.
hazy.
Yeah, it was really cool. But the food is just incredible. And we were getting looked at like, how the hell do you guys know about this place? And now it's one of my hidden gems for people that I like to bring here. But I'll say the name one time, but I'm not going to say it again. Panchocha. If you ever come to Medellin, that's the place to go. That's how you find it. It's a type of bread, but if you find the spot, then you're there. And so we do that, and we come back. It's probably, I don't know, about 11:30 when we come back. We return the bikes late at night, get all checked in, walk back, and that was the weekend.
That was the weekend. Yeah.
Now we're back to work.
Now, yeah, we'll do an episode one of these days where we talk a little bit more about work. But I figured this is more fun.
A little bit more fun to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to explore on the working remote, the actual digital nomad life. Like, we haven't really dove deep into the expat community here necessarily, because I just don't think that's really what we're about. But that might be something cool to explore. We're a part of a couple entrepreneurial groups that are here that do events all the time. Cool events like meditation for entrepreneurs, like super niche. Dance classes, stuff like that. But I think we'll probably do a couple other episodes that are more of like our day-to-day and like how we are balancing all of this and some other like digital nomadic stuff that I know I had questions about. I still have questions about, to be honest. Throwing ourselves in. Yeah, that was the weekend. Thanks for listening. If you like, smash that subscribe button. Do all the buttons and stuff below.
Ask me questions about Medellin.
Yeah,
I'm an open book about travel. If there's questions you want answered, you want us to talk about, experiences you want us to have, let me know. Like Willie_chill, AC_Evan. Like, it's pretty easy to find us. So like
on Instagram specifically.
Yeah, or the Digital Bromads. there's lots of ways to reach us, and there's a lot of things to talk about, and like I don't want this to always just be about us. Like I talked about in the first episode, I want to talk about everybody else too. That's one of my New Year's resolutions. And so if there's things you want to know, places you want us to go, like things we should do, or just questions about how you can do this, let me know. I'd love to talk about this shit. I'm sure Evan would too, and I know it's really important, and it's easy to talk about the fun adventures and things that we do because it's fun and it's exciting. So is the other stuff too. I love work. Don't get me wrong, I'm super passionate, but I want to bring you guys what you want, and I think that's the point here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool, guys. Thanks for listening.
Bye.